When I said that, it was 11:59, so I'm still going to count it. I pressed the button at 11:59, so we're ahead of schedule.
So you don't charm the devil with your rock and roll load. Knows that country music's gonna save your soul. The devil runs his groove in them rhythm and blues. That Sam is gonna get you son in the end.
Welcome back to the Speakeasy. I'm Sother Teague.
And I'm Greg Benson, and it is almost Tales of the Cocktail.
The biggest week of the year for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
As I've been telling people when they're asking about what I'm doing next week, picture the Oscars of bartending and the Burning Man of bartending and a university of bartending all at the same time. It is basically education, awards, giant party.
And I was about to say, and a marathon. It's also just an endurance test.
Yes, absolutely. No, it's not for the faint of heart. Almost put me in the hospital 2 years ago, but I'm back, baby. Can't keep me down.
I can't help but feel at least slightly responsible for that. I'm sorry.
It's not so much that you were responsible, Sother. It's just that I got a parasite from an oyster. It happens. It's not your fault, but I am still a little bit somewhere between pissed off and amused that you ate probably 300 oysters on that trip. And I ate
22 dozen raw.
Yes. 22 dozen raw oysters. I had 6, and I just drew the short straw on that one. But again, when people ask me like, oh my God, so you're off oysters? I'm like, no, I'm not going to stop doing something amazing because something bad happened one time. Life is risk, baby. Yeah. But also wanted to shout out that we are an official media partner of Tales of the Cocktail this year, which means that you, lucky so-and-so listening to this, are not going to get just one episode next week. You are going to get daily coverage, poolside and red carpet side from the Spirited Awards every single day of the festival next week. We have a crap load of really amazing guests lined up. Going to be doing some really cool stuff. Going to be talking to some people who are up for some really prestigious awards. And we're going to be cutting up and having some fun.
And not to mention, we'd love to, of course, see you at Tales of the Cocktail. And if you see us, please come up and say hello. But if you can't make it, this is a good way for you to get there vicariously through us. Come and hang out with us here on the Speakeasy for updates daily.
Yeah, hang out with us in person or on the radio. Either way, we're probably not going to be 100% sober as the Lord intended.
I mean, that's true now.
Yeah. As we always like to say on the Speakeasy, it's 9 a.m. somewhere.
That's right.
Speaking of people who may or may not be 100% sober, I don't know. We didn't get to it in the green room. I guess we'll find out as we interview them. We have with us today the owner and managing partner of the Flatiron Room, which has been a New York City fixture since 2012. It is Tommy Tardie. Tommy, thank you so much for joining us, man. It's great to have you.
Yeah, welcome, buddy.
Nice to be here. I'm not going to tell you what's in the cup. Could be vodka.
I would hope gin. Well, you're down in Miami today, so maybe it's some white rum.
Could be some white rum.
All I've had so far today, of course, is my daily Underberg. I have one right when I get up. It gets me going. I don't drink coffee. But I want to jump right in with you, and I don't need to ask your CV, but I do want to get at least one little chunk from your history. You left a career in advertising to open effectively a whiskey bar. What itch were you trying to scratch that advertising never could? Or at least was there a moment in your career where you're like, I'm going to regret this if I don't do it?
Good question. I think the itch was just an entrepreneurial itch. I enjoyed advertising. I loved it. I would say if it wasn't for my advertising background, I would have never made it in this industry. I think there's an adage that says once you go on your own, it's very hard to work for somebody else again. And that was kind of the case with me. I went into it, a very non-traditional hospitality path. I didn't have any experience. I was just kind of charmed by but what I thought was the lifestyle and what I saw on the surface. And it sounds silly now after someone that has a lot of experience in the industry. I looked at it and I said, how hard can it be? Yeah, I'm that guy.
Naivete over experience, right?
Yeah. So it was a lot of reinventing the wheel. When I got into the industry, it's like Little House on the Prairie days. I had no internet to kind of Google how to get things done the right way. So again, it was a lot of just reinventing the wheel. I knew there was a better way of doing things, but I had to do it the hard way.
As you're kind of building this out, as you're moving forward with this concept, what's a decision that you made in the first 2 years that you were open that still pays dividends today? And then flip side of that question, what's one thing you look back on and you're like, oh boy, I'm never going to make that mistake again?
Oh, good question. Well, I would say the thing that was a big kind of win for our concept was just investing in training and knowledge. It started off as me getting into it, me really enjoying, neat spirits like distilled spirits. And specifically at the time it was whiskey. And I bought a lot of it, but I really, frankly, didn't know much about it. And I said, look, I was having this, I started amassing this really big collection, and I felt a bit like a poser. I had this great collection of whiskey, but I didn't know much about it. I knew more than my friends, but getting into the industry, I talked to people. I'm like, man, I really know nothing. And I took it upon myself to just start doing some traveling and watching like Dave Broom videos on whiskey knowledge. And that was a really big moment for me. And it had such a big impact, because the more I learned about it, the more I really enjoyed it. And then I said, if that has an impact on me, I want my team to subscribe to that, so they could then learn, and then they could be our kind of brand ambassadors. So early on, we started really taking staff knowledge and training seriously. Having something we called Whiskey Wednesdays, where we would have different brand ambassadors come in and teach us about the nuances of each spirit. It's one thing to read something in a book, but it's much different, or watch something online, but it's much different to actually take the glass, put it to your nose, and try it. So that was a big aha moment. And then we started doing yearly distillery trips. We started off with local places around Manhattan, and then we started doing barrel picks, and we always created call it an incentive, or for our team. We would bring down groups every year, and that was amazing. And we saw it firsthand. Like our staff would go down there and learning about it, and then they would come back, and it just invigorated everybody around them, because they had this knowledge and they were proud of it. That was something I did right. Plenty of things I did wrong. I think at the beginning, I'd say I was probably the easiest person. I was the easiest mark for any liquor salesman. They would just say, "Oh, go to Tommy at the Flatiron Room. He'll buy it. He buys everything." And it was true. I was my goal was this is back in 2012, 2013. I just wanted numbers. I really wanted to have this collection. And in my mind, I said, if I could have 100 bottles, man, that'd be great. If I could have 100 bottles on my shelf, that'd be incredible. And then the more collection I got, the more I realized, if I have this big collection, then I have an obligation to have even more, because if a new release comes out and I'm not getting it, then people are disappointed. So what started off as me chasing a number became kind of an ongoing commitment to just keep bringing in more stuff. So, our collection quickly went from 100 to 200 to 500 to 1,000. And then, bookkeepers gave me a call and was like, hey, cowboy, slow it down a little bit there on the purchases. So, yeah. And now, I really, especially with Miami coming up, my focus is going to be more on just curating, in addition to our big food program, just curating a really tight list of spirits that I enjoy, versus just chasing a number.
It sounds to me like you had a bit of imposter syndrome that
Oh,
then
100%. I still do, by the way.
We all do. But
Yeah.
I feel like that imposter syndrome drove you to dive a little deeper and get a little bit more granular and more detail oriented. I feel like it paid dividends in its own way to go through that process. And I totally understand the idea of curation, right? I think guests would rather have a curated selection than simply an overwhelming mountain to look at. But being that detail oriented guy that it sounds like you either became through that process or you already were when you got there, what do you think is a detail that guests almost never notice, but you would never compromise on at any of the locations?
Geez. I tell you, there's a lot, and there's so many. Most people, I come from the creative side, and I'm definitely type A, and I notice details. And a lot of people will walk out of a restaurant or a bar, and you ask them if they enjoyed it, and they're like, "Yeah, it was fine." And if they most people really can't put a finger on what it is that bothered them, or what would prevent them from coming back. And a lot of times it's these very, very subtle nuances. For me, lighting and sound are just super, super important. Lighting and sound are things that a lot of times go unnoticed. But if they're not done right, they just leave a kind of an unsettling experience. People will walk out and they don't really know what it was, but a lot of times it's that. So I would say those two things. And, and specifically you walk into a room and you see, warm lighting, and then you see one big halogen light that's just kind of, stealing your soul. And that's big. And then all the little touch points, hospitality is all about touch points. So, everything from the glassware to the comfort in the seat, to the hand towels in the bathroom, all those things that make a big difference. I don't think there's any one silver bullet that's going to make a venue successful. I think it's just paying attention to the details.
If you're hearing the sound of my voice right now, I've got some bad news for you. You are only getting about 60 to 70% of the conversation that we had today with our guest. But if you want to hear the whole thing, you can join us and become a regular on our Patreon.
That's right. To hear the rest of the conversation, join us on our Patreon, become one of our regulars, and you'll receive all kinds of perks, including ad-free listening, so you won't have to hear us do this again.
And in addition to ad-free listening and longer shows, you are also going to get cocktail recipes from all of our guests, access to our live monthly hangouts, and a free cocktail kit each and every month from our good friends at Shaker and Spoon.
So head over to Patreon and become a regular of the Speakeasy. We'd love to have you there. Cheers.
You teased at the beginning that your career in advertising really prepared you for the second act of your life and your career. And it sounds like that's probably one of those things that was really, really useful to you as you were launching the original Flatiron Room in 2012. Because with an ad, you've got 30 seconds, 20 seconds to really make an impression. And it's kind of the same thing with bars. Like as soon as you walk in, that first impression of the space that you get lingers.
Yeah. So true. It's, that and the hours, a lot of people say, oh, the hours have to be horrible. I went to boot camp and that was advertising, when I was on the creative side. And I tell you, the hours in advertising was even worse than hospitality. It was pretty bananas.
Well, as you mentioned, it's type A creatives. It's people who really are passionate about what they do and will not be able to lay their head down on a pillow and go to sleep if everything isn't exactly the way that they planned for it to be.
It's horrible, but it's true.
Well, speaking of being this detail focused, one thing I wanted to ask you is, you've been at this for a while now, your reach has expanded, but what is one thing that you personally will still never delegate, that you always want to have be overseen specifically by you?
I'm good at programming and, hiring. I enjoy hiring. I'm not I certainly have my strengths. But there's so much that I don't know and I don't do well. So I like to hire people that I like to hire good people that know things that I don't. So in terms of hiring, management, I'm always going to be involved in that. I'm always going to be involved in the overall customer experience, guest experience. And I think in order to do that, you need somebody that's really on the pulse of your company, your brand, because your guest experience, it's got to evolve over time, and it's got to evolve with the market. Things change. In 2012, when I got into this, I mean, it's very different now. So understanding the brand, understanding the market. Those are things that I'll never delegate because it's too close to me. Yeah.
I totally get that. And, since you mentioned it, being around since 2012, my bar opened in 2011. But, there are a lot of whiskey bars that opened in that sort of time frame. It was kind of hot, right? And many of them, as we know, are no longer with us. What do you think has kept the Flatiron Room here all these years and kept them fresh?
Yeah, good question. I'm gonna take a shot. I'm not 100% sure, but I think just adapting to the market. I think just staying on the pulse of things. This industry is definitely not a set it and forget it. What I like about New York is it's a love-hate relationship, frankly. There's always people that are younger than me, hungrier than me, that have more money than me. That are trying to do better than me, and I definitely never take what I have for granted. I'm always thinking of, okay, how can we stay relevant when there's all these other brands that are popping up left and right? We've been around for a long time, and so I think I think just adapting to the market and being creative, not being afraid to take risks and take chances. Again, it's very easy to become complacent and be like, oh man, we've been around for X number of years. We're fine. But I don't think we'd be around if I just sat back and was like, we're good.
This all kind of culminates into maybe the question of the interview. What is the Flatiron Room exactly? Because it's a lot of things, right? It's a bar, it's a restaurant, it's a jazz club, it's a bottle keep. I mean, it sounds like it started as a passion project for you around whiskeys, but it's become a lot of different things to a lot of people since then. So what is it to you, and what do you think it is to your guests?
Yeah, well, I think people would describe it in different ways, frankly, and I'm okay with that. I know an elevator pitch for your brand is super important. We're an elevator pitch, but it's a very tall high rise. We're going from the first floor to the 80th. We're a restaurant with an amazing distilled spirits program that has a live music component. The music is meant to enhance guest experience, not be the experience. So we shy away from saying we're like a live music venue. I think we're kind of mitigating any issues with that guests may have when they arrive, and thinking we're a listening room. People that are into live music, as in a listening room perspective, may be disappointed because we encourage guests to talk during performances. It's background. It's there to enhance the experience. So yeah, when we first started, I would say, we had about revenue split was 70-30, 70 liquor, 30 food. As we developed, music is always free. Our revenue centers were liquor, food, and then corporate and private events, which is a big number for us. As we progressed and as we developed, our food became greater and greater. I recently brought on a partner, a Michelin star culinary director, and he really blew up our food program to a much higher level. And now our revenue split is actually in favor of food, but which is I got different thoughts on that, but
It's a revenue change, but it's also a margin flip.
Yeah,
it's a margin flip. Our margin on food is still pretty good. I think better than a lot. We're able to charge a bit more because the atmosphere that we're creating, and I think people feel a little better, knowing that they have live music when they're dining. But distilled spirits is something I really I love, and I love being involved in that side of it. So yeah, it's at the heart of it, we're a restaurant with a very comprehensive spirits program and a live music component.
Yeah, and it's rad and it's beautiful. That leads me to a place where I want to ask, like, when you personally are at the Flatiron Room, either of the two that are operational right now, like, what is your favorite part of the Flatiron Room?
Oh gosh, I tell you, if we ever, I'll answer it in a roundabout way. If I go to the Flatiron Room with friends or family, I purposely try to get a seat where I'm not looking at anything other than my guests.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because I have a very difficult time enjoying there when I just see things. I'm like,
of course.
I get hyper focused on the empty glass across the room, the piece of paper that dropped on the floor. So I think it's difficult for me sometimes to really enjoy it when I'm there. What I really love is when guests go there and they tell me, like, oh, I just went there and I had such a good time. And if I wasn't even involved in that aspect of it, you know what I mean? Like if you guys were to come, you text me and you say, hey, we're coming down. I'm going to text the GMs and I'm going to say, hey, listen, we have some VIPs coming, put them in this table, make sure you touch the table, send them out a wow moment, blah, blah, blah. I've controlled that, and hopefully you guys would really enjoy it. But what I really like is when I have a guest that didn't even tell me they come, and they say, oh, I just had an incredible time. Your staff was so hospitable. They stopped by and they touched the table. And I'm like, wow, that's great, because that's nothing that I was even, I wasn't even controlling that. Mm-hmm. So that makes me happy.
I feel the same way. I tell people all the time, building Amore Amargo was to build something that simply didn't exist. If I built a sports bar, there's other sports bars I could go to enjoy a sports bar and not have those feelings that you just described. Like when I'm at my bar, I kind of am at work, whether I'm working or not.
Yeah.
And there is no other bar like Amore Amargo. So sadly, I built a thing that over the years, many, many, many people have enjoyed, and I have yet to experience it.
I feel you, man.
I mean, that's just the facts.
I can tell you from experience that it's very nice. It's a cool spot. Speaking of cool spots, let's talk about Florida, man. So you've got 2 locations in New York, one in the Flatiron District, fittingly enough, another one in Murray Hill, and there is a coming soon location in Miami. What was your internal indicator that let you know that this concept was actually ready to expand versus a little bit of ego that just kind of wanted another location?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely both on that. Definitely ego. Even when I built the first one, I like systems. So even when I had the first location, I put a lot of systems in place. And my kind of mantra is more like work on the business, not in the business.
Yes.
So I kind of take the macro side of it, and I'm there. I always tell my managers, I'm like I'm here to support you, man. I'm just, look at me as a toolkit, and I'm here to supply support as much as possible. We've been really lucky with our investors. We paid off all of our investors from the first one relatively quickly. So they were game to get on board the second location. And then one of my investors who was purchasing a unit in where we're going, and he said, hey, Tommy, they're looking for a restaurant. They're taking applications, and are you interested? And I'm always interested in anything. I generally bite off more than I can chew. So I said,
Type A creative, baby.
Yeah. Always take the meeting.
Yeah. So I went down, I looked at it, I was like, dude, this is insane. It's right on the water. And surprisingly, they knew about our brand, and they, at the time, I think the majority of the people purchasing units were from New York, and they really liked the idea of having some kind of a brand that was recognizable for some of their clients, or at least an established brand. Mm-hmm. So I threw my hat into the ring. I wrote up a brief on what I could envision, and this is like years ago. And I put together some sketches, and they bit. They said, yeah, I met with them a couple of times. It wasn't quite that easy, but they said, we'd love to have you. So that was it. And, I'm happy to say that the majority of our investors in both of the locations reinvested in our new place, which is good. And it takes a lot of pressure off, because you bring in new people. I mean, we do have a lot of new investors as well, but it's just, there's something comforting about, doing business with people that are, started off as investors, and now they're friends, and they get it, and they're very supportive. It helps a lot with the process.
Yeah. It also speaks to your, the longevity and the longevity of the business. If you have partners, investors who want to invest in you again and again, right? Yeah,
they like the space. I mean, it's people don't generally invest if they're looking to put their kid through college on it. It's more of a, I have enough of a nest egg that I enjoy the space, and this is going to be one of my, I think the term is like vanity investment.
Sure.
I think going in with that attitude is always good. Fortunately, I've been able to give them some returns, so that definitely is better. But yeah, that was it. And and I think we had a lot of systems, and when you look at the revenue and the economies of scale, they're huge. I mean, now the fact that we're purchasing for 3 locations, I mean, we're able to get much deeper discounts, and these things that normally we wouldn't be able to touch. Now we can say, okay, we need 100,000 air laid napkins with our logo on it. Normally that would something we could never swallow, but having a few locations that we can spread that cost over, it just make things a lot easier.
Yeah, economy of scale. Well, This makes me want to ask, like, at which point did you come to the realization that you're not necessarily running a bar anymore, but your job is to now build an organization?
When I got into the second location, that was it. We started filling out different roles, and I saw myself as kind of overseeing concept development, guest relations, investor relations. It just kind of happened.
Yeah.
It just happened. I don't know when it happened, but it just happened. It just suddenly frankly, listen, when I first got into it, and I say, it's an easy thing to say, oh, work on the business, not in the business. Yeah, I mean, that's a nice statement. When I was first there, I mean, when I first opened up, I was the GM. I was, texting the busser, like, where the heck are you? You need to be here now. So, but then as you start growing the business, you start hiring people, and you start getting some muscle memory with your managers. You see what they're good at, what they're not good at. And then you kind of carve out the area that you feel like you can have the most value for the company.
This kind of brings me to a question that, frankly, there's no way to verb this without making it sound negative, which I don't want to do, but there's no way to really kind of talk about like franchising or like copying, pasting, or even like expansion. Kind of makes it sound like I'm asking a gotcha question, which I'm not. I do believe that there's a good way to do this, and I believe there's a way to do it right. Yeah. But what are your thoughts on that? Especially, what are some of the pitfalls you've seen other successful bars fall into when they've tried to do this, when they've tried to move to a new city, and what are your strategies for avoiding that?
Well, a thing that I hear a lot, I don't know anybody personally that's done this, and you guys have heard this too. It's like, oh, you hear these horror stories of places closing down, and generally it boils down to them. They grew too quickly, right? I hear that all the time. Like, oh, they grew too quickly. They opened up one, and then they opened up, 20 other ones. So I think that's one thing. That's certainly not us. And then the other thing, which I was pretty aware of it. Like, our concept is very. If you guys have been to it, they're darker. They have dark wood, crown molding. It's New York. It's very, it's dark. It's heavy. So the challenge is how are we going to take that concept, that aesthetic, and bring it to Miami? Because frankly, especially the space that we're in. I mean, it's 3 walls are all glass, 20-foot ceilings of just glass, looking at the water. So, that doesn't work well with big, heavy, black walnut. So finding the right designer that could take the concept and make it familiar, but through a Miami lens was a real challenge. And I found a lady, design firm is a pre-space, and she was at Rockwell Group and a bunch of other Avrico. She was at a bunch of places. She went on her own, and I met with her, and I really gelled with her vision. And I think she nailed it, man. It's really what I'm hoping is when people come in, if they've been to the Flatiron Room, but they didn't know it was the Flatiron Room, they would probably say, this kind of reminds me of a place in New York, without it being, like a Cheesecake Factory or a Cracker Barrel. There's going to be some nuances, like we call them our brand pillars. Like our bottle keep is a big component of our brand. So we've really amped up the bottle keep aspect of it. We have a big stage. We have some other kind of things that will be familiar with people that know our brand. But I'll say I think it really works with Miami, like the color scheme, and but it's not like the Miami paradigm of, sparse spacing and just white and it's more of a maximalist design. But I think that was my biggest concern is trying to, take the brand and bring it over there, make it unique, but still our brand.
You mentioned a Miami lens, and I just want to quickly set the table with how I sort of think of Miami. Like, you say you start in New York and you drive down 95, right? You're driving down 95, you hit Philly, you hit DC, you hit Richmond. It starts to get southier and southier and southier. Yeah. Eventually you hit Jacksonville and you start to think am I heading the right way? And then sometime around Orlando, it's like you've driven through the portal in Who Framed Roger Rabbit and you're in the Toontown version of New York City. So when you said New York through a Miami lens, that's where my brain went. What is that? Does that feel accurate? And what does that look like in practice?
Well, I'll tell you, I've done that drive a few times, and it's a heck of a drive. Miami is its own little bubble. It really is. I love it. I didn't, frankly, I wasn't sure what I was going to think of this place because it wasn't really on my radar. But I came down and I really, really like it. There's a lot of New Yorkers here. It's kind of weird. It's got a fast-paced attitude. Things are happening here, but it's at a different pace. It's for Florida, it's fast-paced, but it's not New York. And it's people like to spend money. They really enjoy showing. It's not a New York, I would say, is very stealth wealth, right? It's very low key, very kind of it's kind of hidden millionaires. Miami, it's very, if you have it, you show it. So that's interesting. But for my industry, it's great. We definitely, we're happy to take people's money.
Yeah.
So in terms of a Miami lens, I think overall I was saying it's more of just like the aesthetic and the attitude and the, it's a lot more open, a lot more airy. We want to capitalize on our views. The views are insane. So I think that's what I meant.
Well, yeah, and the bar is like a person, right? It can have a duality of interests and likes, right? You can be a New Yorker, cruising around the city in a long coat in the wintertime, but you can also, throw on some topsiders and head down to Miami for vacation. And frankly, a lot of people from New York also live in Miami, and frankly, many people who retire from New York move to Miami. I'm from Florida, so I get it. So I can see having aspects of the Flatiron Room through, let's picture like all that wood that you just mentioned at the Flatiron Room in New York, and it has all that, right? Well, remember, like the Kennedys cruised around in those wooden boats, that were just gorgeous, right?
Yeah, the Hinkley's. Yeah,
but that's down by the water,
So nice.
So like it translates. It just translates in a way that's kind of more relaxed and more like inviting in a way.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I'm excited to see what comes of this. I'm excited to come and visit it once it's open. Excited to hear all about that. But that is going to do it for us here on the main show. However, we are going to stick around and keep chatting with Tommy about what's changed in the last 14 years since Flatiron Room first opened its doors. We're going to talk about how guests have changed, how New York has changed, how Tommy himself has changed.
Yeah.
So if you want to hear the rest of that conversation, you can head on over to Patreon and become a regular. We'd love to have you. Everybody else, we'll see you on the other side.
We usually wrap up the show by asking a pretty simple question, but it sometimes is revealing. Is there a spot that you'd like to maybe highlight or talk about? Where are you drinking these days? Either here in New York or down there in Miami, where you're at right now, or anywhere in the world?
Yeah, sure. So this is, I'd say, one of the fun parts of the business is, your due diligence.
Yes.
So I've been, I come to Miami. There's a billion places here. There's so many good places. So it's a lot of fun to have to easily justify me going out and drinking. Because, it's for research. I got to find out what other people are doing. There's a bunch of places here. I like Maple and Ash. They have a great bar program. Sonny's is really good. Mother Wolf is around the corner. So, I hit a lot of those places. Those are great. Coat is actually down here.
Yeah.
I've taken my chefs down here and sat at the bar and just kind of, threw back a bunch of drinks and just got, took in some of the vibe. So I really like those places, but I'm hitting I still have a lot more to hit. I'm trying to get as versed in the Miami hospitality scene as possible.
Heck yeah. I mean, it's a tall order because that town is chock-a-block with bars.
Yeah. It's great. It's really good.
Well, hey, I'm super glad you were able to jump on the show and tell us about,
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been great having you here, man. And I'm excited to visit you down in Miami. Maybe at Tales on Tour. I don't know. We'll see, but I'll definitely take you up on that.
Yeah, would love to have you down once we do open. 2037 is what we're just joking.
Good. No, we love a realistic goal here on the show.
Listen, it's a great way to underpromise and overdeliver.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He said 2037, and they got open by 27.
Hey,
10 years ahead of schedule. Well,
That's
if
right.
people wanted to follow along with his journey, where can they find you on this big, wide, beautiful internet of ours? What's your Instagram handle?
So my Instagram is really unique. It's at Tommy Tardie.
Yeah.
That's about it. The venues are all at the Flatiron Room, and then either _Miami _Nomad Murray Hill. And I try to post a little bit, not super active, but
I know. I found that my relationship with Instagram is the best when I'm like, I post for work, but I'm also like, I just kind of have fun with this thing sometimes,
Yeah. Yeah.
I use it to feed my love of appearing shirtless on the internet. And you know what? That plus work content feels like a good balance to me, you know?
Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Well, hey, man, this has been awesome having you on
Really
the
good.
show. Thanks for sharing your time with us. Good luck with the Miami location. But that is going to do it for us this week on the Speakeasy. Before we take off, Sother, any sauced updates for us?
Heck yeah, man. We dug really deeply into the Provençal classic of ratatouille on a recent episode. We talk about how people's misconceptions of that dish exist in a lot of ways. And we talked, of course, about that little rat from Pixar.
I was going to say, you can't do the whole episode without talking about the Pixar movie, right? You kind of have to.
Yeah. There's no avoiding it. Even if you do a simple search on your browser for ratatouille, you're looking for the dish, but you're mostly going to get the movie.
I'm sure the dish is on like the 3rd or 4th page of Google results, honestly.
Yeah, it's pretty buried.
Well, hey, check out Sauced and check out us next week in New Orleans, where we will be live at Tales of the Cocktail, bringing you updates from the festival from some really cool VIP guests every single day in your feed. Come and hang out with us. If you can't come to New Orleans, that's cool. We understand. Hang out with us here on this channel.
I think we have to definitely note, Greg, that we're going to be doing shows from not next to a pool, but in a pool.
Yes, pool casting.
That's right.
We invented pool casting, as all great inventions are. It started as a joke that we have proceeded to take way too far. So we're going to be doing all of our podcasts in a pool next week. So tune in for that. Find us on YouTube if you want to see us sitting poolside. Again, feeding my undying love of being shirtless on the internet. Everyone's going to be happy, especially me. So tune in for that. But for now, that is going to do it for us this week on the Speakeasy. So until Tales of the Cocktail, cheers, everybody.
Cheers, gang.
So you don't charm the devil with your rock and roll, Lord knows that country music's gonna save your soul.